All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. Okay, we are into February. I think this might actually be the first event I'm hosting in February. Jesse was pretty busy last week with the start of our February events. This is our 11th season of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, and in all 11 of those seasons, in February, we kick out all the men and we host women in science, exploration, adventure, and conservation all month long. So if you head to exploringbytheseat.com, you can find all of the events that we still have coming up in February. There are a lot of them. And then I will be traveling shortly. I'm heading to Senegal and Gambia for a little while, but I have classrooms signing up to come along virtually with me. So every day while I'm there, I'm going to put out new videos and updates and things like that. And then I'll also be doing some last minute live events when the opportunity arises. So I'll try to put those out in advance, but we'll also, I know some teachers have signed up for the WhatsApp group, so I can give kind of short notice that we're going to go live and do something really cool. So if you check out our last newsletter, you can find the spot if you want to sign up to get on that list for everything we'll have coming up over the next 12 days or so while I'm in West Africa. So that should be pretty cool. Today, we are going on a virtual field trip. We're going to head to New Zealand, which the National Kiwi Hatchery is a place that we visit from time to time. And it's been a little while since our last connection. One reason is the time zones can be pretty tricky. So right now it's 8:30 in the morning in New Zealand. And then here in Canada, on the East Coast, Canada and the US, it is 2:30 in the afternoon. So it just happens that things align right now with time zones and daylight savings times that we can make something like this work. So the National Kiwi Hatchery in New Zealand is the national leader in kiwi husbandry, egg incubation systems, hatching techniques, and rearing of kiwi chicks. And we're really lucky today to be joined by Emma Bean. She's the Kiwi Hatchery Manager, and we know her well from many past hangouts and events. So let's get Emma in here live with us right now. Hi, Emma. How are you?
Kia, Joe. Very good. Very good. Good to be back.
Yeah, it is absolutely great to have you here with us. We're excited to explore a little bit, learn a bit more about the hatchery. And in fact, I have a little 2-minute clip that we're going to play to kind of get us warmed up, but I couldn't resist bringing you in to say hi first.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year, Joe. So this little clip just gives us a little insight into how we began. So let's give that a look.
All right, perfect. It's going to take over your screens in just a moment. Here we go.
Years ago, there was a complete shortage of juvenile kiwi out in the wild. We constantly encountered adults, regardless of where we looked, but we didn't find juveniles. And we hatched a plan to put a transmitter on a kiwi in the wild. And it actually showed that stoats were just about nobbling every chick that hatched everywhere across mainland New Zealand. It was just the biggest tragedy. We needed to get juveniles back out there into the forests. And back then, 30 years ago, stoat control was genuinely in its infancy. So the most certain way to get kiwi chicks through was to collect the eggs from the wild, take them to a facility like the National Kiwi Hatchery, hatch them, grow them to a size at which they were no longer vulnerable to stoats, and put them back out in the forest. And the start of the journey about reversing the fortunes of kiwi on mainland New Zealand.
It was just phenomenal to see this chick come out, fully formed, feathers, but entirely wet, and just breaking out of the egg and immediately starting to try and crouch and stand up. Very emotional it was.
All right, so there's our little video to give us a taste of the history, Emma. That's pretty cool. One of my best memories of the time I spent in New Zealand was being out in the bush earlier in the morning, maybe 1, 2 in the morning, waiting patiently with a red spotlight, and I saw a wild kiwi. So that was pretty special for me. That was pretty awesome. And I visited the hatchery while I was there as well, but I didn't know you yet. That came later.
That did come later, it did. And absolutely, seeing kiwi, you know, it's our national icon. I mean, it's just such a special moment. You know, if you do get that opportunity, it's really special in the wild. It doesn't always happen, but lucky for you. And yeah, so as I said, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. And if you wanted to see the rest of that video, it is on our YouTube channel, and it really brings together, you can see the history of some wahine toa, as we say in New Zealand, or strong women in science, because a lot of the work that the hatchery is involved in has been shaped by some key women in New Zealand's conservation world. So some exciting stuff there, but I'll bring you back to the hatchery right now so you can see that I'm standing outside the incubation room. So from that little taster video, you know that we work with projects all over the North Island. They have got transmitters on the kiwi out there, and they monitor them, and there's a pedometer, so like a step counter in that transmitter, and that basically tells the field worker when the kiwi is less active. Now the kiwi is actually, they've got this great work-life balance, so they already sleep for a whopping 18 hours a day. So 6 hours a day is how long they're active for, so you might like the sound of that, but that activity drops even lower when they're incubating. And so that then flips a switch and the algorithm says they're incubating, and when the eggs are about 60 days old, they get brought to us, because that older egg is about 60 days through a really long incubation time of 78 days, which means the younger sibling, usually there's 2 eggs in a clutch for the North Island brown kiwi, which is the species that we work with, and that means that younger egg is about 40 days, so it's about halfway through development, and it just means that it's a little bit more robust to travel. So on arrival here, they get brought into a room just to the side of me where we candle the eggs. Now, when we're candling, it's basically a little bit like an ultrasound for a pregnant mother, and it enables us to see what's going on inside the egg. So it means that we can see how the embryo is tracking and give an estimated age of that egg. So assuming that the egg is viable, it then gets washed, and then it gets brought into the incubation room you can see behind me here. And so what we've got in here is we've just got 3 eggs in this room at the moment, incubating nicely. But what I will do is I will just show you a little bit of a candling video. And so you can see here on the screen that this light source, you can see the foot kicking, which is incredible there. And all those veins across the top of the egg, that's how the growing embryo gets all its nutrients. You could also see the bill in that air pocket at the blunt end of the egg. And that is where this egg has started the hatching process, and then it moves through from getting its oxygen needs from the veins on the inside of that egg, and it starts getting oxygen in that air pocket at the end of the egg. Now, you can also see behind me a really quite impressive x-ray. So this is a female bird, and it's known as gravid, but essentially with egg. And you should be able to see me. It's a little bit tricky, but zooming in there, you can see this here is the egg inside the female. So it's one of the largest eggs per body weight. For the whole of the bird world. And so thinking back to the start of that video, Dr. John McLennan mentioned that New Zealand was essentially birdland before humans arrived. And so, you know, Kiwi's large egg is just one of those incredible adaptations, really, because for North America, for Europe, I'm originally from the UK, we're so used to having mammals in our forests, but actually New Zealand only had 2 land mammals, and they were both bats. And so all of the birds and the reptiles have evolved to play the roles that are typically filled by mammals in other countries. And so they've got you know, either large eggs or lots of interesting features about them that make them specially adapted to fill those roles. A lot of our birds are endemic or only found here in New Zealand. And a lot of them, reptiles as well, have an incredibly long lifespan. So kiwi live for about 50 to 60 years. Some of our reptiles live for 100 to 200 years. So really quite different species here in New Zealand, which means that we really do need to look after what we've got here. So we're going to move through from the incubation room and into our hatch room. So what I will just do is I'll just change to the back camera, and here we go. We have an egg in here which has started the hatching process. So you can just see here the external pip, which is here, the cracking on the outside of the shell. Now this little egg should hatch in the next 24 hours. It's about 5 days through the hatching process, and it averages about 5 days. Can hatch in 3 and up to 9 days. And you can see here as I bring out a zoom out, we've got unfortunately reverse number, so you'll have to play a mirror game there, but we've hatched 75 chicks already this season, so starting from July last year, but a whopping 2,680 since we began this work in 1995. And then just coming down here, we've got a very special young chick sleeping away from the hard work of the hatching process. So this little chick is 2 days old and will be graduating into our brooder room soon. But for the first 2 days, they actually stay in these hatches, and the temperature is slowly turned down from the incubation temperature of 33.5, and it's slowly turned down to 28 degrees Celsius. I'll just come back to me on screen for you guys. Hi there. And so what that chick has to do, and you can just see here, has to push its way out of this egg. Now you can see on this drawing that there's really not much space left in that egg at all, and eventually that bird will poke its bill into the air pocket, which you can just see here. So this is a little gap where the membranes have pulled apart, and instead of relying on that those veins on the inside of the shell, when it gets close to hatch, it pokes its bill into here and eventually pokes its way out of there as well. And so for the kiwi, they're actually part of the ratite family. Now, the ratites are all found in the southern hemisphere, all flightless, and they are an ancient lineage of birds. So if you think about that taxonomic tree, they branched off from the rest of the flighted birds millions of years ago. And as a result, they've got some unusual features. So all of the ratites being flightless don't need to worry about being lightweight for ease of flying. And so because of that, they actually have marrow in their bones, similar to us humans and to other mammals. They have 2 functional ovaries. Most birds have got rid of one, to make them lighter for flight. But they also lack an egg tooth. So all other birds, when they break their way and hatch out of their shell, they tap on the outside of the shell, and they do this with a piece of keratin. So similar to your fingernails, that keratin is formed just at the tip of their bill, and it's there just for the hatching process, and they peck their way out. So kiwi, they don't have that egg tooth, and instead they're pushing with their big, powerful legs. So that's the same for kiwi and for the rest of the ratites. And for those of you that know a little bit about the Australian cassowary and the emu, you've also got your ostrich and your rhea as well, but they're all quite a lot larger than kiwi, but they're also got quite well known for their powerful legs, and you'd want to avoid them if possible if you meet a cassowary in the bush in northern Australia. So kiwi are using those strong, powerful legs to kick their way out of the shell. So we've got quite a full hatch room here. I'm just going to go. So hatched out of this shell here is this little chick. He's got his head away from us, tucked under between his legs. He's also 2 days old. And then we've got this one here who hatched overnight last night. So came out of this shell, and you can just see him in the corner there. Those legs tucked up, pretty much in the hatch position. So we'll move through into the brooder room now. This is where they graduate into. So you can see it's a little bit like a crèche or a maternity ward. And you can potentially see, it's a little bit in the distance there, the yellow lid on the top of that brooder. That is a heat plate. So to begin with, when they move through into this room, we then, instead of having that element around the top of the hatcher, we've got a heat plate. And that basically emanates the warmth that they'd get in their nest from their dad. So a key fact that I've not yet mentioned is that for the brown kiwi, it's actually the male, the dad, that incubates the egg, because the brown kiwi, as I said, can lay 2 eggs in the first clutch, 2 eggs in the second clutch, and sometimes a third clutch. So 4 to 6 eggs a year. And if you think back to that x-ray that you saw of the gravid female, then you could understand why the female has done a lot of hard work. She's done her job already, and so she leaves it to the dad to incubate. But kiwi are known as a precocious offspring. So you may be aware of this word from your biology lessons, but you may be more used to it being used as an adjective and saying, stop being so precocious, which is kind of a phrase used for people who think are a know-it-all. And Kiwi, they do know it all, you know, everything is instinctive. So those 2-day-old chicks that you saw in the hatch room, everything is instinctive. They don't need to learn anything. And that's why the program is so successful, because we don't have to worry about teaching them anything, but more importantly, we don't have to worry about them being imprinted on us humans. And so all they need Dad for is a little bit of warmth, which is what we've given in that yellow heat plate there. And they leave the nest typically about a week old. And so that makes them really vulnerable to these introduced predators that us humans brought just a couple of hundred years ago when we first arrived in New Zealand. Whereas back in the day, this strategy worked because they estimate that there were about 12 million Kiwi before humans arrived. And now there are just 68,000 of all Kiwi species. There are 5 Kiwi species, only one of which is found naturally in the North Island, which is where we are here in Rotorua. And so the 4 South Island species typically lay just 1 egg a year, but the North Island typically lay 4 to 6 eggs a year. And it's because we're getting those numbers of Kiwi of eggs through that this Operation Nest Egg program, which is the program that we work with, the conservation work that we complete here by lifting the eggs from the wild, incubating them, hatching them, and releasing them at what is deemed a stoat-proof weight of 1 kilogram, we're increasing their survival from just 5% to 65%. And we know that that's working because even though there are, as I said, 68,000 all Kiwi species left, they estimate there are only about 25,000 brown Kiwi. But in the time that we've been doing Operation Nest Egg, so in the last 30 years, we have moved Kiwi from a threatened status to conservation dependent. So we're really proud that we've transitioned up and are making a difference to Kiwi through Operation Nest Egg and predator control. But it says it in the name. We have to continue doing what we're doing and ideally do more of it. And that's where the National Kiwi Hatchery comes in, because it's really important to share this work with others as we're sharing it with you this morning, my time, this afternoon for you guys, because of course until you see a Kiwi, you're not going to care for Kiwi the same, and we all need to care for Kiwi and the environment. And so making sure that New Zealanders and our international manahiri or visitors understand the importance of the environment is one of the key things that we do here at the hatchery. So yeah, we're pleased that from this room where they stay for about 2 to 3 weeks, they are, as I say, kept warm for that first week with the heat plate. But then as they transition onto food, they no longer need to utilize that yolk, which has been internalized in through their navel prior to hatch. That sustains them for the first week or so. But then once they lose weight for the first week or so of life, I'm picturing a graph here, and then they re-attain that hatch weight, then they establish themselves to go out to the Kiwi crate. So that's an outside area that we've got surrounded by a predator-proof fence, and that enables our Kiwi to grow up to that stoat-proof weight of 1 kilo, ready for release back to the forest, the Ngāhere, where they were lifted from as an egg. And that's Operation Nest Egg in a nutshell, Joe.
All right. Very cool, Emma. Let me turn my camera back on and I'll come back and join you. Awesome stuff. You guys do incredible work. I think the last time we connected with you, you were on your 100th egg of the season. That was a few seasons ago. So that was pretty cool. And I can see that things are going well this time as well. How many would you estimate are in the little brooding kind of containers behind you?
I tell you what, I'll move around and show you a little bit more. So let me have a little count up. We've got, I think it's 6 in here at the moment.
Yeah.
We've just had, so this season's been quite interesting in as much as it's happened in fits and starts. So we've had periods of time where there's been lots of eggs hatching, lots of chicks doing all the same thing, and then it's ebbed off a bit. But I mean, this is what happens when you work with Mother Nature. It can't be a steady stream all the time.
Yeah.
Last week we released 8 kiwi in one day, so they'd all reach that same goal of a kilo at the same sort of time.
Very
Now
cool.
I'm just zooming in there. You can see that it's important that we monitor the birds and track them as individuals. And so I'm just zooming in a little bit. I don't know whether you can see, unfortunately, it is mirrored writing, but we code all of the eggs. And so you can see that the code for the egg in brooder 12 is a couple of letters, MT, and that's for the forest Mungatanifar, where the egg was lifted. The next couple of letters is Charlie, or short for Charlie, sorry, and it's Charlie's 30th egg. So Charlie hatched a whopping 374 grams on the 3rd of February. So should be almost ready to go outside in the next couple of days.
Okay. Well, I think we're ready for some questions, Emma, but while I take our first few questions, I thought it'd be fun to play a little Kahoot with our classrooms. So while you were presenting, I pulled together a little Kahoot quiz backstage. I'm going to load that up onto my screen. You should be able to see that coming up now, classrooms. If you go to kahoot.it, it'll ask you for a PIN number, and that PIN number is right up there for you, 820-1759. So while we wait to see if we have some classes, some students come and join us, I've got a few questions here in the chat that I'm going to run through, Emma. Let's see. I've got some classes saying hi as well. Grade 5s in Edmonton, Alberta. Second graders in Tucson, Arizona. Here we go. So Caesar's joining us all the way from Nicaragua. And he's wondering, the long beaks that the kiwis have. You mentioned it's good for getting out of the egg. Are they used for other reasons, that long kind of spear-like beak?
Such a great question there. Yes, they are. So they're used to forage into the ground. So not only are they long, but they've got some pretty cool features about them. So one of my favorites is officially the kiwi has the shortest bill in the world, because scientists, they measure from nostril to tip, and the nostrils are usually right up here at the face. But for kiwi, they've got them at the tip of the bill. So we can all see that the kiwi bill is super long, but if you follow those official scientist measuring protocols, they've got the shortest bill in the world. So not only do they use the nostrils to be able to smell the invertebrates that they eat, they forage for fallen berries as well, but their diet is predominantly invertebrates. They also have a really cool sixth sense. So they have sensory pits at the tip of their bill. And these are basically, the bill is bone, and then over the top is keratin, which is your fingernails, same as your fingernails. And they've got pits in those bones, that bone structure, full of nerve endings, so they can actually pick up the movement of the invertebrates in the ground. So when you might see videos of kiwi foraging, it looks like they're stabbing around in the dark. They're not. They're honing in precisely on the movement of those invertebrates, and you know, they're picking up on the movement, but they're also smelling with the tip of their bill. So those are the primary senses that they use. Then they use hearing, and only fourth is vision, which you can understand because, of course, they are a nocturnal bird.
Very cool. A few groups who are joining us are wondering, the stoats, the other mammals, how did they get to New Zealand?
So unfortunately, it was us humans that brought them over. And I can say this as a European, most of the responsibility falls on my ancestors' shoulders. So the first arrivals were the Maori. When they came over, they brought the dog and unintentionally the rat. But it was us good old Europeans that wanted to make it feel a little bit like home, that brought over the rabbit for sport, for hunting, but also to make it feel like home. And they did what rabbits do and got out of control. And so to try and control them, they brought over the stoat, which is the mid-sized mustelid. You've also got the larger ferret and the weasel, the smaller weasel. And whilst they did something to control the rabbits, unfortunately, they also enjoy our native birds and reptiles and amphibians as well. So catastrophic results that we didn't anticipate. We also brought over the possum. So we've got a lot of possums in New Zealand, and they're bigger than in Australia, because in Australia they actually co-evolved with the plants. They're supposed to be in Australia, and so the plants developed a system to release toxins, which would actually, reduce the level of browsing or eating of one plant, which protected them. Whereas they're relatively new arrivals in New Zealand, and our plants haven't come up with that strategy yet. And so our forests are being very heavily browsed by possums, which are omnivores, so they will also eat eggs and chicks, and also by the deer. So it's unusual that New Zealand was essentially birdland, and all of these introduced mammals, even the herbivores like the deer, are still playing a significant role in environmental issues.
Okay. Well, let's pause the questions for a little moment and let's get into some Kahoot action. So I'm going to hit start now. Remember, the quicker you put in the right answer, the more points you're going to get. Multiple choice, true and false. Here we go. Where is the National Kiwi Hatchery? So this should be a nice, easy warm-up. Is it in Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, or is it in Fiji? So what do you think? All places in the Southern Hemisphere, not too far apart from each other, but one of them is the home to the National Kiwi Hatchery. Is it Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, or is it Fiji? You've got about 9 seconds to lock your answer in, and we will see how we did. All right. Good job, crew. Most went with New Zealand.
Nice.
I think the kiwi is a pretty good clue. You're going to find the kiwis in New Zealand. We have the radiant lion in first place, and we're going to a true or false question. Kiwis sleep for 18 hours a day. What do you think? Is that true or is that false? Those awesome kiwis, we know they come out at night. Are they sleeping for 18 hours a day? Got about 7 seconds to lock in your answer. All right, good job, crew. That is true. Up for about 6 hours, but having that nice 18-hour rest. Radiant Lion, holding on. We got another question coming your way. More true or false action. New Zealand is rich in native mammal life. What do you think? New Zealand is rich in native mammal life. So I'm basically saying there's a lot of native mammal species in New Zealand. What do you think? Is that true? Or is that false? Are there a lot of native mammal species in New Zealand? All right, good job, crew. That is false. There's a couple bat species, but other than that, like Emma said, it was birdland. The birds filled all those habitat niches that other animals would have, like the mammals. Okay, Radiant Lion is doing pretty well. They might hold on tape to tape. We've got another question. Kiwi can live for 5 to 10 years, 20 to 25 years, 30 to 40 years, or as much as 50 to 60 years. So what do you think for those kiwis? You've got 18 seconds left. Is it 5 to 10 years, 20 to 25 years, 30 to 40 years, or can they push it to all the way to 50 to 60 years? 6 seconds to lock in an answer. right. So up to 50 to 60 years. Of course, in the wild, there's predators and things like that. So the conditions, I think, would have to be pretty good to reach that 50 to 60 years. We've got one more question coming your way. True or false? A kiwi egg hatches in a day. What do you think? True or false? The kiwi egg hatches start to finish in a day. Got a few more seconds to lock something in. Three more seconds. True or false? Hatches in a day. All right, good job, crew. We know that's false. It can take all the way up to 9 days, which is pretty crazy. But Emma, I think 3 to 5 is a better estimate.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at our podium. In third place, we've got the yellow gnu. In second place, the energetic scorpion. And holding down that top spot in our Kiwi Kahoot, the radiant lion did not let go of that lead. Okay, very cool. Well, I'm going to shut down that music. I'm going to shut down that screen share, and we're going to spend the rest of our time with Q&A action together. So virtual elementary, I know you are joining us backstage. Would you like to unmute and ask a couple questions from the students, or do you want to put them into the chat? Options totally up to you. You can unmute or pop a few in the chat. I'll keep an eye out, a listen out. I think I see the microphone just turned on.
Yeah, hey Joe. Hi Emma. How are you guys today?
Good. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you for having us. We have a couple questions, but I'll start off with the first one.
Yep.
We're wondering, are there any other hatcheries in New Zealand?
Emma, I don't know if that came through for you. Are there any other hatcheries in New Zealand?
Good question. There are a handful. So we are the largest, for sure. And they're the largest one open to the public to come and visit if any of you guys ever make it to New Zealand. There are a couple of other places that hatch. So there's a place in our south that isn't open to the public. And there's a handful of zoos that also do sort of 5 to 10 eggs a year in the North Island. There is another facility, Willowbank, in Christchurch, and also the West Coast Wildlife Centre in Franz Josef that help hatch a handful of the South Island species. Operation Nest Egg, which is what we do, is a conservation tool that is one of many tools in that conservation toolbox. And so the South Island typically choose landscape scale predator control over Operation Nest Egg, but some areas sort of pulse the use of Operation Nest Egg. And so they have some of the rarest kiwi in the South Island, the roe and the Haas tokaweka. And we've actually had some exciting news in the last 12 months, Joe, that they've found some little spotted kiwi that in an area on the mainland of the South Island that they thought all kiwi had become extinct in that area. And so considering that these kiwi, or that species of kiwi, the little spotted, went through a bottleneck of just 4 individuals, so they got down to just 4 kiwi of the little spots, to find a further 9 is a really significant development. So really exciting stuff there.
Absolutely. Virtual elementary, do you want to squeeze one more in before I go to the next group?
Sure, yes. One of our students is asking, how do the kiwi birds live so long?
Okay, so I think my microphone might be canceling out the background question, Emma, but they're wondering, can they live so long? 50, 60 years, that's a long time.
It is. Well, that's the natural lifespan. Unfortunately, because of the introduced mammals, it can be as low now as just 17 years in Northland because of not only the stoat is the biggest threat for kiwi chicks, but once we've got them up to that stoat-proof weight, the next biggest problem is the dog. And so there's a lot of advocacy. We all love our pet dogs in New Zealand, but we have to be responsible pet owners and make sure that they don't go into areas where there might be kiwis. So if they are free in an area free from predators. They, just as any animal can live a little bit longer, it just means they've just got to be in a safe place, basically. Does that answer your question, or was it more how can a bird live that long biologically? Or
No, I think it makes sense. I mean, there's other birds like parrots that can live 80, 90, 100 plus years. So really, all different animals have different lifespans, and in an environment free from predators and lots of food, then they can live to reach those lifespans.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have a homeschool crew hanging out. Cullen homeschooler hanging with us. How are you doing today, bud?
How are you doing today? What is your favorite food?
Oh, Kiwi's favorite food, Emma.
Kiwi's favorite food. Sorry, the mic's not working for me. I don't know why. So they love long, juicy worms. So here in New Zealand, if you wanted to do a little bit of research after this morning's session, if you start Googling, some of the native worms in New Zealand are huge. They can get to almost a meter in length, so quite possibly taller than you are. And so those are probably the Kiwi's favorite, but any other insects are absolutely yummy for Kiwi.
Very cool. Do you have a quick follow-up question?
Do you want a follow-up question, buddy?
I can come back too.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Mr. Lloyd's fourth graders. Let's see if they're here with us in Maine. How are we doing, fourth graders?
What's a kiwi? What's a kiwi most likely to have, a girl or a boy?
Okay. So Emma, I don't know if the question came through, but they're wondering what's more likely to hatch, a girl or a boy kiwi?
Great question. 50-50. Honestly, we've looked at the stats and there is no skew at all. So yeah, it could be one or the other. And interestingly, there are no external features to say whether they are male or female. So we can't tell when they hatch whether they're a boy or a girl. And so we wait until they're a little bit older, and then we pluck a couple of feathers to send away for DNA testing. And that will be able to tell us when the results come back. But back in the day, before DNA testing, we had to wait until they were fully grown, because it's actually the female. So a great Women in Science fact is the female is the larger of the two birds. She's feistier, so she's often more responsible for the territory defense. And she also, it's a bit of role reversal, she actually has the gravelier voice. So it's the male kiwi that is a little bit more recognizable as a bird call, and it's a high-pitched shrill whistle, crescendoing for about 10 to 15 calls. That one is the one that most New Zealanders would recognize because it travels further, because it's a higher pitch, whereas the female, a little bit gravelier and less well known.
All right. Fourth graders, you got another question handy there for us?
Unfortunately, it's time for dismissal, so I think we're going to have to head out, but thank you very much.
All right. Well, great to have you hanging out with us today. Very cool. Let's grab a couple from YouTube, and then I'll get our next camera classroom in here. We're getting backed up on YouTube, so let's see. Okay, this one's interesting. We have a group are asking two questions here. They're out in Nova Scotia. What do you feed the kiwi at the hatchery, and do you ever assist them if they're having trouble hatching?
Two great questions. I'll go for the food one first. So we actually work with Massey University down in Palmerston North on a couple of things. So they have a wonderful wildlife hospital down there if we need their services, but they also have nutritionists. So those nutritionists have developed a special diet for the kiwi that we feed while they're with us. Its main component is die-stock's heart, so beef heart and lean mince, but it's got vegetables and a vitamin mix in it as well. It's all human grade, just one of the components is cat biscuits, so maybe not so tasty including those. But that is, believe it or not, it's matching perfectly the nutrients that it needs, so the chicks are getting the very best start to life while they're here. On a micronutrient level as well. But as you've probably picked up, that doesn't move. And so some of the kiwi get onto it straight away and they say, thank you very much. And they'll eat it off their dish. But occasionally we do have to hand feed a kiwi. And you saw that, I think, in the video earlier. And so that is where we basically just wobble the food in front of their bill and encourage them to eat it. And then once they've sort of put two and two together and realize that that is food, they will happily eat it on their own. So hand feeding is just for a very short amount of time. And then the good thing is that when they're released, they don't miss our cooking at all. They, you know, the environment is full of those yummy invertebrates and they'd much rather be eating those. But in a facility like this, we cannot grow enough invertebrates to replicate all of the nutrients that would be available in a whole ecosystem worth of invertebrates. And so that's why we need to use that nutritionist developed diet. Now, going on to your second question, which I've momentarily forgotten, Joe, could you just remind me? Oh, assist hatching, that was it. And so occasionally we do need to help them hatch because, as I mentioned earlier, most birds chip their way out. And they use a specially developed egg tooth that then slops off a couple of days post-hatch. For the retites, positioning is therefore really important because instead of just chipping their way out, they're using their strong, powerful legs. And then if you remember back to that image that we had outside the hatch room of that, there was a drawing, but also an X-ray of an embryo in the egg, you'll see that the bill is positioned and it's, you know, it's longer than the width of the egg. And so if the embryo gets into an unusual position, and you might have heard it being described as a breech birth for pregnant mothers, then occasionally you're right, we do need to assist hatch, because if that bill is in a position and they can't get it into that air cell or get the leverage that they need for those strong kicking legs, then we can assist. And so through candling, we can determine whether the chick is malpositioned or breech, and we'll be able to see where things are. But occasionally we will then go and get it x-rayed just to really fine tune and pinpoint that. And then assist hatching is, as we said earlier, on average 5 days. And so the first step is that internal pip, poking the bill into that air pocket. The second bit is cracking on the outside of the shell with its bill, but then the final step is pushing with those legs. And so we can intervene at any of those points. And just because we intervene at one doesn't mean we have to fully assist, but we only sort of help probably 5 to 10% of eggs a year. And we've been doing it long enough now that we know that if we've intervened with an individual, we're not impacting the health of the population. So we're not exacerbating that problem and making more chicks likely to be breached in future. Just like if you were breech in your mum's tum doesn't mean that your offspring would be breached. So we know that we're just maximizing that hatching success. And so in the wild, typically only about 50% of kiwi chicks hatch, and that's typical across most wild hatch or birth rates. That might be because of bacterial contamination of the shell, and of course we wash the eggs when we bring them in to the incubation room, reducing that risk. Or it could be that there was a development problem, or potentially the nest has been abandoned because it's been you know, a predator has come along and disturbed the nest. So not only are we maximizing hatching success by being able to intervene and assist hatch if needed, we're then increasing that survival rate. So we've got a 95% rearing success and a 95% 95% hatching success and rearing success here. And then when they go out into the wild, instead of just having that 5% survival, if they didn't come through Operation Nest Egg, we'd increase that to 65%. It's not higher than that, of course, because we've discussed that unfortunately for adult kiwi, cats and dogs and the larger mustelid, the ferret, are still a problem. But 65% survival is way better than 5%. And we know that this is working because we've been able to adjust their threat status, and now they are conservation dependent. So it's working. We just need to keep doing more of it.
All right. We are going to bring in another homeschool crew hanging out with us.
Hi, how are you doing?
I almost said Nova Scotia, but it's North Carolina.
Hi,
good to have you with us. Hi.
How are you doing today?
Good, good. I think my microphone might be canceling out the sound today, or Emma's phone microphone might be canceling out on her. Either way, the sound's not making it to Emma, so I'm going to have to relay your question.
You have to relay the question
when you're ready.
So I was wondering, how do you find the kiwi eggs in the wild?
Okay. So Livy is wondering,
I
Emma,
can't hear you, Joe. Sorry.
Oh, you can't hear me now. Let me send Emma a message. She might have to exit and come back in if it's cutting everybody off now. Or let me try this. How about now, Emma? Does that make a difference? No? Let me send her a quick message. Okay, we'll see if that helps. Or I might have to kick her out of the studio, and that'll be a code for her hopefully to come back in as well. I don't know if she got the message. Okay. I'm going to... The only thing I can do is kick her out of the studio, and hopefully she'll re-enter. So let's give that a try. Okay. All right. Well, we're just going to be patient for a moment, and hopefully she'll see that everything shut down on her phone. And she'll follow the link and come back in. She already did do it once in our practice session. So I guess for whatever reason on her end, her phone is canceling out the sound. So we'll give a second and see if we can get her back in here with us, because we want to get your questions in. We don't want to leave you without your questions. Although I know Emma.
Our other question, Joe, was, you know, it's such a big success to go from 5% to 65%. I mean, our mind is blown thinking about the ramifications for like sea turtles, for instance. So we were curious about what, Livy?
What's stopping the other groups from like applying this to other species like sea turtles?
All right. I think we've got Emma back. Can you hear me, Emma?
I can.
Okay. I knew you couldn't hear me, so I kicked you out of the studio, hoping that you'd come back in. So that's good. It worked. So our crew in North Carolina had a couple questions. The first one, actually, I forget the first one. What was the first one?
How do you find the kiwi eggs in the wild?
Oh, yeah. So the eggs, where are they coming from? Are you finding them in the wild? Where are those eggs coming from?
Yeah, so it's the dad that has a transmitter on his leg. So the start of the process, and it's quite good that you've got your pet dog there next to you, because it's actually dogs that start the conservation program. So whilst us humans, for pet dogs, have to be very responsible and make sure that we don't take them where there might be kiwi, we actually have a handful of specially trained conservation dogs in New Zealand, and these dogs takes about 2 years to be fully fully trained, and they get certified, and it's a very big deal. These dogs have a better social media following than I do, so you might be able to find some of them online, and they're species specific. So you might find there's a kiwi dog or a Fio, that's a blue duck dog, or there might even be rodent dogs and mustelid dogs, so that those dogs, instead of finding the species that you want, they can go in and clear an area and make sure that us humans think that we've cleared it of predators, but the dogs go in with their special, their sense of smell is about 50,000 times what us humans have got. And so they can then let us know that we're doing the right thing. And so that's Kiwi conservation dog will find a kiwi for us, and then us humans need that transmitter on its leg. And so that's when we go in with a big aerial, find the bird, and that transmitter has got a pedometer in it. And so when the activity levels drop even lower, that tells us that they're incubating. And so we can then find the eggs by going in. And so sometimes we go in during the day, and that's of course when they're sleeping, but we just need to know that those male kiwi are not as feisty birds, so the project will know they're birds, but some of the feistier ones we actually wait until they've got off the nest, and so we pinpoint the nest during the day, but we wait until they've left at night. And a lot of people are concerned that they then miss the eggs, but you've got to picture that animals do different reproductive strategies. And for kiwi, similar to, say, your sea turtle, who has a couple of hundred eggs in it and a nest each time, kiwi, if you do the maths, 4 to 6 eggs a year, living for 50 to 60 years, starting breeding when they're about 2 years old, they have a lot of offspring. And so whilst us humans do anything to protect our 1 or 2 or 3 children, it makes biological sense that if the kiwi nest has been sort of disrupted and disturbed, they will put themselves first and abandon that nest.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you. That is such a rich answer for this. Thank you so much.
Oh, are they coming through? Could you hear them, Emma?
I can hear them. Yes, so it's working now.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and ask your second question? That was a good one too.
So I was also wondering what's stopping other groups from applying this to other species like sea turtles?
Oh, so great that I use sea turtles then. So I guess nothing's stopping them. It is a relatively expensive thing to do. But if you're working with a species that has only got a handful of individuals, it's worth putting the effort in and making sure that you're capturing the genetics before those populations numbers reduce even further. The other factor is, I mentioned the word earlier, that kiwi are precocious. It's actually makes our job a lot easier because we don't have to worry about them imprinting. So another flightless nocturnal bird in New Zealand is called the kakapo. So Kakapo, if you wanted to look them up. And they got down to a couple of hundred individuals, and they're very intensively managed. But when they first started doing some essentially Operation Nest Egg work, unfortunately the first bird that they did that through was became imprinted on humans. So Sirocco is a very famous kakapo. You've heard of Sirocco?
No,
just
but
came out. So give me 1 second. And so making sure that you give the individuals the skills they need for their entire life is really important. And so not imprinting, but also teaching them. Whereas because kiwi are so strongly precocious, that's something that we just don't need to worry about.
Yeah, all the unintended consequences, right?
That's right. That's right. Whereas we've been doing it long enough now that we know that it's working and there's no downsides other than the financial costs. But that's where the hatcheries lucky that we're able to subsidize the work that we do by the visitor fees. So the entry fees coming to visit us means that you're helping save kiwi, which is a brilliant win-win. Ecotourism in its purest form.
Oh, for sure. Congratulations and thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you. Oh, now I can't hear you, Joe.
No, Joe's on mute.
That was my fault. Always great questions coming from our North Carolina crew. So thank you for those great questions.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Emma, we're at that time where I need to let you continue on with.
I can't hear you.
Oh, no. I am going to kick Emma out one more time so she has to come back in so we can say goodbye properly. But I think we lost her completely that time, so I don't think she could hear anybody. So we'll give her a second to get back in here. We'll say a proper goodbye, and then we'll be wrapped up for today. So let's just be patient for a second. Let's get Emma back in here. Fun to visit the National Kiwi Hatchery in New Zealand. I think we have Emma back. Emma, can you hear me?
I can. Excellent.
Perfect. I don't know what's happening with the audio today, but we got you back in just in time because we want to let you carry on with your day. You've been so generous with your time. Thank you for the tour. Thank you for answering all of our questions and hanging out with us today. We love visiting the National Kiwi Hatchery. I just wish we were closer so we could do it more often. But thank you so much for taking us virtually to New Zealand today.
You're very welcome. Loved all the questions, and yeah, keep enjoying science, guys. We can help change the world.
All right. Well, we're going to sign off for today. Don't forget to look ahead to all the cool events we have coming up throughout February. But for now, we're going to say goodbye. Thanks, Classrooms on YouTube. Thanks, Classrooms Backstage. Emma, huge shout out to you and the Kiwis. Thank you.
Ka kite.